Alright, so I figure it's time to do another video again. Well, I'll soon be throwing some more parts at her. Never-ending project, never-ending money pit. But I figured I'd start this video off by saying that some of the people that warned me of this were right, even though it didn't cause me issues for the longest. That venting the atmosphere with these breathers on a valve cover would be an issue with it being boosted. And well, for a while it wasn't. Daily driving, boosting occasionally, it wasn't. But the last couple of times out, I gave some people joy rides, hooned in it a bit, and rolled the tires over through second and whatnot, and pretty much bouncing it off the rev limiter and then getting it up to speed on interstate and whatnot. Well, eventually I found that I was starting to get a little bit of oil. You can see my valve covers here a little saturated. Same thing was down here, a little bit of oil was on the underside of the filter. But moral of the story is, yep, these are like Summit thread-in baffles that give an O-ringed hole to put pop filters into, like a normal grommet style. But it does have actual baffles on the underside, but apparently it just wasn't enough, because under boost, I guess I get enough blow by to where it pressurizes the crank enough to start blowing a little bit of oil out. And you can see probably some of those little spots, dots, where it was flying out. Well, I really don't want to burn my car down, have an engine fire, because it's throwing oil out on hot headers. So I opted to do something about it. Went back to our boys at Motion. Turn this down some. But went ahead and ordered catch can. And at first glance, it is a very nice piece. Dual 10AN, breather, drain plug. The only thing I would have liked is, I like the knurling on this is a nice drain. I really just wish it had a piece on the bottom of it where you attach a hose, so I could actually run a hose out somewhere and drain it a little bit easier, but oh well. I could eventually change this to just a barb and then get a drain valve and do it that way, but more than likely this will end up getting mounted right around here where that power steering reservoir used to be, and it'll go something like that. And my AN hoses will come out right over the top of this coil and loop back across this path to that one and then back to there. Now the downside, and the main reason I didn't do this before, is because these valve covers required a big hole to put that baffled thread-in piece. Summit actually sells an AN fitting version of those that's baffled, and I actually ordered those and had to send them back because the hole for these is like 1.25 inches. Like, it's a big old whopping hole. The hole you have to drill for the AN fitting ones is like 3/4 inch, whole lot smaller. So, well, it wouldn't fit without me welding. And I even ordered some AN bungs, which are down in this box already. But I ordered some AN bungs that are aluminum that I could weld on. I considered welding my own valve covers up and fitting those. However, the bungs that I ordered also would fall through the hole. So not only would I have to weld the fitting on, I would actually have to weld essentially an aluminum washer to plug the hole, and then set that fitting in the smaller hole and then weld that. And then I'd be ruining these nice powder coated valve covers. Granted, they're a little dirty, but they are complete, and they would work great on an NA motor, but they're not the best for boosted application. I mean, the valve covers I want to say are $100 something at least. This little billet oil fill is, I want to say it's like 50 bucks at least. And then these little baffled breathers are fittings, or those are like somewhere around 100 bucks, 80 bucks something. And then these filters aren't really expensive. They're maybe 10 to 20 bucks a piece or something, I don't even know. But moral of the story, or what I was getting at, is that I would be having to pretty much destroy these these valve covers that are complete for an NA motor that probably cost roughly $300 all in all, in new parts. What I can sell them for, I don't know, but if anyone wants some valve covers, message me and we'll work out a price or something if you want them. But I opted to just go ahead and order some valve covers, and I'll go ahead and spoil it, but I've been seeing the guy on Instagram for a while, and the guy that actually built my fuel tank and my fan shroud with Soulless Innovations. He actually did some work with this guy as well, and when I asked him about if he ever thought about fabricating valve covers, he actually sent me to this guy. And this guy that I'm speaking about has the company called Winchester Metalworks, and they make some very nice pieces. So those are ordered. Estimate time on those is like 5 weeks or so, but I won't be able to put this to use until those valve covers come in. They are all aluminum fabricated, TIG welded. They'll have 10 AN fittings on the back, and then an oil fill cap right here that's also a billet piece that's O-ring threaded. But those will be my new valve covers that'll be coming in, replacing the ones I have. But along with this, I'm sure you saw this. I mentioned this before on a video, and it wasn't really as much of an issue. The other day, cruising, I got up to about 100 miles an hour in this. Now, I didn't mean to be going that fast. It just so happened that I was just cruising down the interstate, and well, next thing I knew, I looked down and I was cutting 100, and I was in traffic, like I was with cars, like they were all going that fast, which is why I didn't think anything of it. But it is insane how smooth and straight driving this car is with all the suspension work that's been done to it compared to what it used to be. Like, used to 70 felt like a death trap in this thing with the old loose steering and old style leaf spring suspension, coiled and whatnot. I don't know, it was all over the road, a little bit of wind, and you were correcting back and forth. Your steering wheel is constantly doing this, and you're still driving straight. But anyways, what I'm getting at is, while I was going that fast, what made me even realize that I was going that fast is I happened to look down at my oil temp gauge that's mounted right here, and that sucker was damn near pegged out. I was at 200 degrees, not 200, sorry, 240. I believe I was at 240. Is it 240 that's down there? No, excuse me, 260. I was at the second from the last one. 260 degrees. My coolant temp was like a steady between 180 and 190. It's got a 180 thermostat in it, but I was right around 180, 190 coolant, but my oil temps were 260. I wasn't in boost, but just the RPMs were up a little ways, because at 80 I cut 2,500 RPM. At 100 I was cutting close to 3,000. Redline set it right at 6. But I guess going that fast, whatnot, you know, I know the oil's being circulated through the turbo. It's hot. I mean, it's going through a remote system over to the filter down there, and then, you know, looping back. So you can see my oil lines through there, and then my remote filter that's down there. Sorry, try to block this stuff so it can actually focus. The dang sunlight's not helping, but anyways, yeah, you can see my remote filter set up right there. But anyways, so after that, I realized I need something to help cool this oil down, or I'm gonna be just burning oil. So I ordered this little oil cooler, and I went with one this small because, well, I'm pushed for room. So this is just an Amazon special. It's made by PKS, don't even know who that is. But my options for placement are pretty tight. Like with this big radiator, condenser, fan, and then intercooler up front, I don't really have a whole lot of places to mount it. I could mount it, you know, right here, maybe. But then, you know, that becomes a problem. That down there even becomes a problem. Like, I don't really have a way to direct lines. The other option I found, I could maybe, which was the main reason I got this little bitty one, is it'll actually fit right there. Now the cooling won't be great on it because it has to pass through this intercooler first, but it will get some airflow to it and should help still. I should be able to run the oil line through here and pass it through this big hole. And the one down low, I'll probably have to pass through down here loosely. Hopefully it'll fit. I'll have to drop the intercooler out of the way to mount it and draw the oil lines. But the other option I thought about, which I don't know if I have room for, but would be the best, is to mount it right here in this gap underneath the intercooler. The downside is I couldn't find one this small that has fittings out the ends. They're all out the top or bottom, whatever. So I could maybe mount it like here and butt it up, but there's not really a whole lot of gap down here for the oil lines to come down, for even them to hit a 90. I don't know if these are threaded in, glued in, or welded in. Honestly don't know, and I'm kind of skittish to try to unthread them to see if I can maybe fit a 90-degree fitting. But yeah, the running the lines would be a complication too, because I don't want lines hanging out underneath the bottom of the car. So I'd really want them to come out the ends. I considered the possibility of cutting those off, welding that flat, and then putting a fitting on the end, welding one on. I don't know if I could weld onto this thin metal or not. I don't know if I want to risk ruining this thing, even though it wasn't really expensive. It was about, I think this little oil cooler was about 40 bucks. I'd rather not below 40 bucks on an attempt at welding it, and it is painted. That's the other glorious bit, is this is actually a painted coating. They didn't just leave it bare aluminum, they sprayed it silver. I really, really wish it was just bare aluminum. But I'll be trying to figure out where the hell I'm gonna mount that. But on to the better question is, why are my oil temps that much higher than my coolant temps? From my understanding, they should stay fairly close to one another. And it's not super uncommon to have an oil temp of like 220 or something like that, or have an oil temp that's, I want to say they said 20 to maybe 40 degrees hotter than your coolant temps. But for it to have been 260 when my coolant temps were like 180, 190, it worries me that there might be some metal on metal friction happening, causing heat in my motor, and worries me that this motor might be soon on its way out. The plus side is I do have a spare roller motor that's at the machine shop, if I can ever get them on the phone and get an answer out of them as to whether or not it's still sitting in the corner I dropped it off in a year ago. But I also made a post recently for some 351 blocks, and to my surprise, there's actually several people that messaged me asking about getting them. So hopefully I'll be picking up a 351 block to have on hand to start on in the near future. I just have to find the time and help with someone that has a truck to go pick them up. But building that 351 is not something that's going to happen right away. Pretty much the only thing I can use off this motor, not related, like the sniper obviously would fit on, and the piping and whatnot, and the exhaust technically would fit, but I'd have to re-weld the crossover and everything. And I do plan on doing twins when I go 351, so I'd be buying another one of these and really redoing the exhaust. But the heads are pretty much the only thing that will transfer over from this motor to a 351. Realistically, if this motor's still running, I don't really want to pull these heads off. I would really like to upgrade the heads to some of the bigger trick flow. I'm trying to remember what model they are. I'm blanking, but they're a lot higher flow, and I would really love to opt to get the CNC ones, but it's a lot of money in that. In fact, the heads are one of the biggest money, or the biggest costs, whatever, in the motor build. But I'd need another intake. I really want to go with Holley front facing, or out the front intake, like the LS style. But that would also change to a port injection, which means the sniper would go. I'd order a Terminator X or something, or an HP maybe, and then I'd be changing to port injection, but that's another huge chunk of money. But yeah, that's future plans. But yeah, the valve covers, catch can, oil cooler are in the works. I've got most of my fittings. I've got plenty of 10A in line. And the biggest problem is tackling, or problem to tackle is where the hell am I mount that cooler? If anyone has any great suggestions, throw them out. I really don't want to mount an oil cooler in front of this intercooler, but of course that's another possibility. I could get a bar and plate style and bolt it on with some brackets off of these upper ones or off of this even maybe, and mount it across in front of the intercooler. But I really would rather keep just the intercooler up front. And I really don't want to have to relocate this because it took me forever to figure out mounting for that thing. But on to some sad news. I don't know how I missed this, but I could have sworn I test fit this before I did everything. But this, that's good. That's bad. I could have swore that I had over 1 inch of clearance back here whenever I sprayed it, but that's sitting right at 1 inch. Right at 1 inch. Actually, it's technically almost just under 1 inch. So needless to say, I'll have to pull this door again. On the other side, this inner panel is actually like touching this quarter panel inner trim piece, whatever. So I think this needs to pull inward. I'm trying to think of a way I can maybe rig up some ratchet straps and hook this and pull it while it's latched to pull this whole panel outward without it screwing something up and creasing anything or whatnot. I'll probably end up having to split the door again and split it lower this time, I'm guessing. I'll probably cut all the way down to like here. And I'll just run this perimeter all the way down that. But yeah, I wasn't happy about that, especially since I just got the thing mounted up and my gaps and lines and everything were so much better and I was so happy with it until I went to roll up the window after I attached this belt line weather stripping, and the glass still catches on this. Granted, it's kind of deformed from where I pulled it off and reused it because it's not the new replacement. I just threw an old one back on so I could drive around and my glass wouldn't be rattling. It kind of buffered the glass from hitting the skin and making a bunch of metal rattling sounds. But yeah, I'll have to work on this some more. It's one more thing to tackle. I feel like I'm never gonna get this thing done. But yeah, if anyone has any advice on oil cooler placement, obviously I know I can mount it in front. It's something I'd rather not do. It does need to be 10 AN. That's my oil lines that I have. And I prefer to keep all my oil fittings going off to the driver's side because there's not a whole lot of room to cross lines over and keeping them away from exhaust and whatnot. And if anyone has any advice on what they think my oil temps are that much higher than my coolant temps for, or if you agree with me, you feel like it's something mechanical causing it on the inside, I did buy this nice little tool. Oh, I find it. This. A while back I bought this spark plug gapper. Nice little piece. And then I went and bought this as well. And that is an oil filter cutter. So I can cut into my filter and check the actual filter media inside. So I plan on doing that whenever I change the oil to do the oil cooler and everything. I'll cut my filter open and see what it looks like inside. I know last time I changed my oil, the magnets on the oil pans did have some metal on them. Quite a bit actually. That was kind of concerning, but whenever I googled around, they said that's expected out of a flat tappet motor, that you're gonna have a little bit of metal here and there, especially since it was since recent, not necessarily recent rebuild, but recent reassembly, because I did home the cylinders and the rings kind of reset, so are reseated. So maybe that was why, or maybe I do actually have a problem. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Anyways, thanks for watching. By the way, if anyone's watching this and still curious as to why the hell I haven't put out that sniper video I've been talking about doing with troubleshooting and tips and tricks on how to fix things, I'm still working on that. It is a long process. I've made I don't know how many videos. I still have to edit them all, clip them, combine them. Everything that's got a dash is a video I've made already, so I still have to touch on handheld stuff. I actually touched that and didn't mark it. Hard starts I got to touch on, no RPM, I kind of touched on that one already. And then no starts. So hard starts, no starts, and handheld navigation. I still have to make those videos. I still have to edit a lot and combine a lot and add text and add pictures here and there and whatnot. So it's a lot of stuff I still have to make and combine. It'll be a while before I have that video out probably. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope I'm not boring you too much. Later.